Today on Central Illinois on the Record, new rules for gun shop owners, what retailers are saying about the proposed regulations.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system.
Plus, we're reaching out to lawmakers to see how long it takes them to respond.
More and more people, especially college students, are using amphetamine drugs like Adderall. Some of them are getting it illegally. I'm Marvis Herring, and I'll tell you why doctors say it can be a deadly addiction.
Now, from your local election headquarters, this is Central Illinois on the Record.
Welcome to Central Illinois on the Record. I'm Paul Cicchini. It's crunch time at the Capitol as lawmakers stare down another budget deadline, this time for the 2017 fiscal year. The top legislative leaders had another sit-down with the governor Friday. Both sides have been talking tax increases as well as elements of the governor's turnaround agenda. Republican leaders are accusing Democratic leadership of essentially pulling the plug on negotiations. Since the talks have been taking place behind closed doors, it's difficult to say why they went off the tracks. The speaker blames Republicans, saying they're throwing new issues into the pot, including cuts to retiree health benefits. Democrats say it's more important to focus on a stopgap budget while negotiations on the governor's reforms can continue to be discussed in working groups. Republican leaders say Democrats have asked for issues like workers' compensation reform to be taken up after the election, forcing the GOP to take a step back.
Republicans have to stop following Rauner, and the Democrats have to stop following Madigan. We ought to be doing this on our own. That's why the governor should come down, call a special session, come to the House floor, tell us what he's willing to do. Tell us about the tax increases that he's pushing.
The governor remains optimistic about a grand compromise before the end of May. He says these working groups have made progress in the past few days. Those groups are going to continue to meet this weekend, but unless the governor asks for a special session, most lawmakers will return Sunday afternoon. The General Assembly revoted Thursday on a $40 billion bill that passed on Wednesday. Now, it didn't work in favor of the GOP, but it did change a few votes. Some Democrats voted against the massive budget bill. Republicans call Wednesday's actions unconstitutional because some members did not get the budget bill prior to the vote. The debate was cut short after Democrats called a procedural motion. Republicans maintain the bill is $7 billion out of balance, the most unbalanced budget so far. At least one Democrat agrees.
We have several days left before the May 31st deadline, and I would like to see us doing everything we can to push to get a full solution to our budget impasse.
That revote took about an hour. A new report by the National Institute for Early Education Research shows Illinois has made moderate progress in providing access to pre-K education. The report reviews state-funded pre-K programs on 10 measures of quality standards, such as class size and length of instruction per day. Illinois met 8 of the report's 10 quality standards. A statewide health alert after the first confirmed case of West Nile virus was found in a bird in Douglas County. Health officials confirmed the positive test on a blue jay. Now, as the weather warms, health departments across central Illinois urge you to put bug spray on before heading out. You should also stay away from standing water. In an effort to get guns off the streets, gun shop owners may soon have another hurdle to clear if some state lawmakers have their way. CIOTR's Hannah Hilliard has more on the Gun Dealer Licensing Act.
Being law-abiding citizens, we want to do what's right according to the law, but it's a little beyond that because it's a matter of our livelihood.
John Meek, owner of Midwestern Firearms, has to go through an extensive registration process through the federal government to sell guns.
To keep those records and follow those rules can be tedious at times.
He says they follow the rules and would continue to even if Illinois passes additional licensing regulations through the state, which is going through the Senate right now. Meek says it could be detrimental to business.
If they impose a big fee each year, obviously smaller companies like ourselves would not be able to do that. It would put us out of business.
A new survey from Americans for Responsible Solutions suggests Illinois voters agree with the new legislation. It says 85% of Illinois voters support the bill. The number is slightly smaller for downstate voters, and the same goes for gun owners. But not this gun owner.
For the state to get involved in it, I think it would just be a means of taxation.
Robin Lloyd with the organization says, quote, "We urge the leaders in the Illinois legislature to support these changes and act to make communities in Illinois safer." But Meek says gun shops are not the problem.
Most of the firearms are stolen or purchased illegally, certainly not through a reputable dealer.
The last time action was taken on the bill was April, when a co-sponsor was added. The bill has been assigned to a committee now. The state isn't getting any extra money to redesign driver's licenses and state IDs, but plans to print the new cards won't require additional state funding. The change is necessary for Illinois because it must meet federal standards. The State Board of Elections says it has some concerns about an automatic voter registration bill. The change would register anyone with a license. Voter registrations would also automatically be updated for anyone who changes their address. ISBE says it's doubtful it would be able to afford the new technology. The board would have to go through a year's worth of voter information to update its records. However, bill sponsor Andy Minar says the benefits will overcome the costs.
There will be a cost associated with that, but once that's done, we will have a system that's very efficient, that improves turnout, and that will improve accuracy of elections.
The measure has passed the Senate. An effort to let voters decide whether state legislative districts should be drawn by an independent group is one step closer to being on the November ballot. The State Board of Elections completed its review of petitions submitted by the Independent Map Amendment, certifying nearly 73% of the signatures. The group turned in nearly 564,000 signatures. It needed more than 209,000 to be on the ballot. Independent Map Amendment faces at least one more hurdle, a lawsuit filed by the attorney for the state Democratic Party, which says the amendment violates the rules about how voters can change the state's constitution. Still to come, budget cuts means no bus service for some students in central Illinois. What district leaders are saying about safety. And who answered and who didn't, as we check to see what happens when you reach out to your lawmakers. Constituent service is an essential element of government. From the state's General Assembly to Congress, lawmakers are expected to be accountable to you, the voter. We wanted to put that to the test in central Illinois. After calling the offices of Senators Durbin and Kirk, Congresswoman Cheri Bustos, State Senator Dave Kaler, and Representative Gordon Booth, we wanted to see how long it would take to get a call back. We placed our calls on May 17th.
State Senator Dave Kaler's office. This is Jennifer.
Hi, Jennifer. My name's Paul. I am calling from Peoria, and I was just hoping to either speak to the senator or somebody from the office about the ongoing budget stalemate and some of this debate that's happening with regards to the future of public school funding. Jennifer told me she was speaking with someone in the office and would have to call me back. Less than 2 hours later,
Hi, Paul. This is Jennifer with Senator Dave Kaler's office, returning your call.
our next call was to State Representative Jahan Gordon Booth. Voicemail.
Thank you for contacting the district office of Representative Jahan Gordon Booth.
So, we left a message.
Good afternoon, Senator Kirk's office. How may I help you?
Hi, my name is Paul Cicchini. I live in Peoria, and I was hoping to talk to the senator about the Merrick Garland, the Supreme Court nominee. The call with Republican Senator Mark Kirk's office lasted 3 minutes. His aide listened to my concerns about the Supreme Court nominating process, took down my name and zip code, and said my thoughts would be shared with the senator.
Good afternoon, Senator Durbin's office.
Hi, my name's Paul Cicchini. I live in Peoria. We reached out to Democratic Senator Dick Durbin about the same issue, Judge Merrick Garland's SCOTUS nomination. After about a minute with the district office, I was told to call the office in Washington, D.C.
Senator Durbin's office, thank you for holding.
I'm calling today because I know that Senator Durbin has been outspoken about getting Judge Merrick Garland before the full Senate for a confirmation vote to the Supreme Court. Ed took my call and told me a mock hearing would be held on Wednesday, but he couldn't find the information about how a constituent could watch. He suggested I call Senator Patrick Leahy's office, but also took my contact information and said he would call me back if he could find more info. He never did.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system.
The office of Congresswoman Cheri Bustos
is not available.
We got the voicemail at the constituent office of Congresswoman Cheri Bustos. Less than 24 hours later, we got a call back, but not with the response we expected.
Hi, Paul. This is Laura with Congresswoman Cheri Bustos' office. Just letting you know, you'll want to speak to our press people, so they are at the D.C. office.
Now, I received a call on Wednesday from the office of Representative Jahan Gordon Booth. I was told my call was returned last week on May 18th, but not to my cell phone, to the station. The McLean County Republican Party has found its candidate to run in November. The party caucused and chose Scott Murphy to take the place of Matt Sorensen as the 2nd district candidate on the November ticket. Murphy was appointed to the seat earlier this year when former board chair Sorensen resigned after he was charged with fraud. Sorensen removed his name on May 16th. He resigned from his seat in January. The Democratic Party is considering a candidate to run for the seat and has until the end of the month to decide. A third party or independent candidate can also put his or her name on the ballot before June. Upgrading equipment to save lives. My firefighters in Peoria say they need new engines. But first, a debate over student safety. How budget cuts are impacting how kids get to class.
You're watching Central Illinois on the Record.
Close to 1,000 Peoria Public School students will not ride the bus next year. The district announced last week students living within 1.5 miles of their school will not have bus service. The state doesn't pay for students living that close to school, but the district does. Some say students walking to school could be put in danger. The district is sending safe route brochures to parents outlining the best ways to get to class. The district says it is ready to respond to any concerns.
We're anticipating probably some phone calls then, families that are going to have questions, concerns with their students that may be walking.
Students will also have to go to the school closest to them instead of some being bused across town. Momentum is building in Peoria's Warehouse District, and city leaders remain adamant about making the community more environmentally friendly. Council approved a $1.5 million agreement with the contractor last week so the city can keep the ball rolling on the combined sewer overflow pilot project on Adams Street. Public Works says it's important construction is moving quickly, and the project is closely monitored. A new 3-story commercial and residential building in the warehouse district will also now have access to TIF funds. But it was another item on the agenda that garnered the most attention. There's a developer trying to spruce up the Glen Hollow Shopping Center on Big Hollow Road. The biggest issue many council members shared before moving ahead was the developer's request to waive the fee to add more than the maximum allotted parking. Some said that was counterproductive to making the city greener. Other city leaders recommended not waiving the fee. Eventually, the developer pulled his request to waive that fee. Peoria firefighters want to increase their services and upgrade another engine to ALS. The Advanced Life Support equips firefighters with the tools to double as paramedics. The department is trying to get its 4th ALS engine, Engine 19, at its Frostwood Park station. Having firefighters able to provide these services means double the amount of paramedics showing up at a scene with advanced medical transport responding to.
Nothing can be hurt by having 2 paramedics on a scene. To us, there's absolutely no reason why this shouldn't happen.
We reached out to AMT, which declined to comment because this process is in its early stages. The president of the Firefighters Union says the cost of upgrading the engine is about $5,000. Still to come, catching the bus in the Twin Cities could be more difficult. How route changes at Connect Transit could impact you.
You're watching Central Illinois on the Record.
Bus riders in the Twin Cities will soon be learning a new route system. Connect Transit's Board of Trustees unanimously approved changes to the routes. CIOTR's Lindsay Harrison tells us what these changes will mean.
After months of public input, protests, and changes, Twin Cities residents finally know what's coming next for Connect Transit's bus routes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
On Tuesday, the Board of Trustees approved a new set of routes for the community after a 3-week delay to continue hearing from the public.
We're very happy with the direction the board has chosen to go, and we're very excited for the future for public transportation in Bloomington-Normal.
The transit system has faced some pushback from residents that are unhappy with the changes even after the delay, but others say that time was used wisely.
We've seen a willingness to change in an effort to accommodate as many passengers as possible.
The new routes are set up to simplify the system, hitting hot spots around the Twin Cities and increasing the frequency at each stop. Sunday service is also being added.
This is going to be a work in progress, that making a change of this magnitude might require some adjustments as we go along. We are committed to being flexible on that. If we see that something isn't working, we will work to change that.
The transit system is still looking at several first mile, last mile options to close the gap between the routes and the areas losing service. So far, the most popular and cheapest option would run a route through those areas during peak traveling hours.
And we got very positive public feedback from that, so people are excited about that.
Connect Transit is hoping to vote on the first mile, last mile program at next month's board meeting. The changes will likely go into effect in mid-August. Well, getting a vaccine in Woodford County could soon be more difficult. The Woodford County Health Department is running low on some vaccines, and because of the budget crisis, it can't buy more for things like meningitis and shingles. School-required vaccines won't be provided because of the high cost. sometimes in the thousands of dollars. Health departments across the state are facing similar situations. Woodford County says uncertainty is the biggest challenge.
With not knowing how the next year, if it will be similar to this year or there isn't any decisions being made at the state level.
The department says these cuts are only for people with insurance. The Vaccine for Children program is unaffected. Another landmark is preserved at the McLean County Museum of History. A plaque marking the original foundation of the second courthouse is on display outside the museum's Visitor Center entrance. The second courthouse signifies where Abraham Lincoln practiced law in the Twin Cities until 1860. Below the plaque sits a brass line outlining the courthouse's foundation. The executive director of the museum says as visitors come in, they'll be walking over a piece of history.
We put a brass line through the concrete so that people would know when they crossed into our entrance that they were actually walking into the same space that Abraham Lincoln would have walked into and all of his colleagues and friends.
For a look at the second courthouse, a picture is on display inside the museum's Abraham Lincoln in McLean County exhibit. Well, lawmakers look to tackle a dangerous hallucinogen while they're targeting retailers trying to sell bath salts. But up next, an amphetamine epidemic on campus, how local schools are trying to make sure students are not using drugs to cram for exams.
You're watching Central Illinois on the Record.
I think students feel a lot of pressure, and anything that might give them a perceived edge has some appeal.
A number of college students and young adults are turning to a quick fix to force them to focus and stay up for long hours. But these stimulants, believed by some to be helpful, can carry both a legal and lethal risk. Adderall has become a well-known word on college campuses, but it's one brand of amphetamine that people are getting their hands on with or without a prescription. Doctors say your kids could be popping these pills, even snorting them. But as CIOTR's Marvis Herring reports, you may not see any physical red flags.
My friend takes it, it helps them focus. I have some trouble focusing. What's the harm in it? But in fact, it's a potential felony conviction, which is serious.
Dr. James Terfukti is talking about drugs like these.
Drugs like Adderall. That's the drug they'll mention.
He's the staff psychiatrist at Illinois State University's Student Health Services Center and says the amphetamine drugs come in a variety of different names and forms. But no matter what you call them, the controlled substance, mainly prescribed to people with attention disorders or narcolepsy, is making it into the hands of a growing number of students nationwide.
Typically they're used for studying, but certainly people can use them to get high. They can crush them and snort them, which is always a concern as well.
Adderall is a trade name for amphetamine.
I also sat down with Dr. Kirk Moberg, Executive Medical Director at the Illinois Institute for Addiction Recovery. He's seen people overdose on stimulant drugs, and it comes with a dangerous price to pay.
Some of them died because of multi-system organ failure. So it hits any organ you can think of in a stimulant overdose. Stimulants can make it shut down.
Psychotic behavior, trouble sleeping, a racing heart. Those are just a few of the examples amphetamine drugs can have on your body if you're abusing the drug. Recent research finds that times like finals week have become a peak season for amphetamine intake. Students often searching for that extra kick to pull an all-nighter. Some pills kick in within 30 minutes.
They are, like snorting cocaine. That's addicting. Shooting heroin, addicting. Adderall works quick. They've been studying for 4 hours already. They're starting to feel fatigued. They're having difficulty focusing. They still have more work to do. Oh, my friend has Adderall. That sounds like a nice, easy solution to this. I can take it, I can focus, I can stay awake.
Most university users are banking on these performance-enhancing drugs to keep their GPA afloat, a use that tiptoes the line of actual addiction.
The interesting thing about the aspects of the performance drugs is that they work. Parents are not going to see decreases in grades. Not even everybody who tries heroin will become addicted to heroin.
The signs that your kids may be addicted to or abusing amphetamine drugs like these may not be over the top. The doctors say use your parent intuition.
Parents know their children better than anyone else. If they're acting different, they should always ask themselves, what's going on?
ISU's policy is clear for students with attention disorders and about prescribing amphetamines. For parents, Dr. Moberg says make sure you're talking with your kids well before they reach college, even before high school. The National Institute on Drug Abuse website has much more information. A measure to reduce the bath salt epidemic heads to the governor's desk. The dangerous hallucinogenic drug that causes severe aggression in users is often sold and disguised as other products. Now, the bill would prevent retailers from selling it and allow for the state's attorney to prosecute them. Retailers caught selling bath salts could lose their retail license and be charged with a Class 3 felony. Fines can reach up to $25,000 and 5 years in prison. If you have trouble reading the fine print on food labels, you'll be happy to hear about the Food and Drug Administration's new regulations. The FDA recently approved label changes to help shoppers keep better track of what they're eating. For instance, it now includes added sugars along with total sugars. One of the biggest things you'll notice, the calories and serving size will be much larger in print size. The serving size will be more in line with what people are eating in one sitting as well.
Ice cream, for example, a half a cup of a serving, which is what it is now, will become 2/3 of a cup to reflect that most of us don't usually eat just a half a cup of ice cream.
Vitamins A and C will also be swapped for vitamin D and potassium, which Americans typically do not consume enough. The changes will be required on all labels by July 2018. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of Central Illinois on the Record. Of course, you can stay in touch with us using social media. Connect with WMBD and me on Facebook and Twitter using the hashtag CIOTR, and we will see you next week.
The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of WMBD, WIZZ, or Nexstar Broadcasting Group.